like if you take these technical upgrades and so on. So if there's like what I used to play back in the day, one of the favorite games on the Nintendo console back then that I played with Hank was 007.
GoldenEye on the N64.
Yeah.
Yeah, GoldenEye is great. There are some pretty awesome restoration projects for GoldenEye.
I mean, if I could get that on PC, I'd play it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there are ones that you can play on PC. Most of the time, people just go and emulate it, but I'm sure there is a fan project build that has online multiplayer and stuff set up for it. Let's see, hold on. GoldenEye 007 XBLA online multiplayer on PC. Yeah. You can play GoldenEye multiplayer online on PC through fan-made projects like GoldenEye Source, a free Source Engine remake, or by using emulators with tools like Radmin VPN to play the original N64 version's netplay-enabled release. But yeah, see, like, that's what I mean. When studios do not provide the games that people want to play, the community makes the games they want to play, either through the indie scene, or they take the old games that we all know and love, and they add some spice into them and make them worth
They'll
revisiting.
re-engineer it.
Yeah. It's pretty great.
You know, and they could make money if they could take that GoldenEye and they could say, hey, you know, here's the retro GoldenEye, and for $11.95, we'll give you a copy you can run on your PC. I mean, how much work does it take to convert it over to run on a PC?
Well, with GoldenEye specifically, the challenges aren't in developing the game or restoring the game or any of that shit. Most of that is already done. Most of all that work is already done. It's a licensing thing, if I recall correctly, for
it's
GoldenEye.
licensing.
Yeah, for GoldenEye specifically. It's like an MGM. I'm talking out of my ass. I might be wrong on the company, but if I recall correctly, it was a licensing dispute because there was a whole remake completely developed and made for Xbox Live Arcade, and actually, I think that one may have actually released finally. Can't recall for sure, but yeah, like there's always a way to play the games you want to play on a PC, like whether it's through emulation or a decompiled PC port.
So if they said, hey, you know, we're gonna re-release the GoldenEye, you know, to some old geezer like me who played it back in the day with his kids, that has very fond memories of it because they played it with their kids, you know, back when they were little kids, you know, they'd make money. Boomers would say, hey, you know, hey, this game was great when this is a blast. They could call their kid and say, hey, look, we got this. We could play it online together, you know, or, you know, why wouldn't they want to, you know, get some money out of that market, that little niche market, and make some bank on it, you know? So if MGM's got the rights to, you know, the movie studios got the rights to, you know, James Bond and GoldenEye, so MGM gets their little bit of cut.
I mean, you'd think it would be a no-brainer.
Money on it, right?
Nintendo, Microsoft, and Danjaq, MGM, and Amazon. So they're the ones that own. That's why GoldenEye is in such a limbo, because you've got Nintendo, Microsoft, and the IP holders that all technically have right to make a game, but they all have to agree on the project, or deals have to be made or something. But yeah, it is a slam dunk to offer ease of access to retro games. Like, that's all they need to do, really, and they make money. A good example is the Master Collection for Metal Gear Solid, because they re-released them on PC and on all the consoles and, you know, whatever, but it was just the laziest port. The HD collection that came out on, Xbox 360 has better texture resolution than the Master Collection when they first released it, and they've done some things to fix it, but ultimately, like, the mods, the community mods are how you fix that game and make it worth playing. So, on one hand, when they release a lazy port like that and whatever, they are hitting that ease of access box, like the convenience box, and that's essentially why they sell it, because they don't have to put work into it. You know what I mean? Like, when they do decide that they're going to put actual work into it, you have a situation like Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, where the engine that runs in that game is the original PS2 engine, and it's just got a coat of paint on top of that engine through UE5. But because they didn't optimize it, or, you know, I mean, that's all there is to it. They didn't optimize the game, and it runs like ass, even though it's a PS2 game. And it's not like it's generating this huge open world or anything like that for it to run like crap. Like, these are like little hub areas that ran on the PS2. So there's just no excuse for it. They release a low effort port of a game, or they lazily remaster it. I guess I can't say that Delta Snake Eater is necessarily lazy, but they definitely cut a whole bunch of corners. Anyway, you know, the community fixes it, and, you know, that's neither here nor there. I'll take it if that's all we get. Like, I'd much rather be able to just go buy a game on Steam and it barely run and then me fix it through mods than not have access to that game, or having to hunt down a physical copy to rip, you know, onto my PC or whatever. And then in most cases, like really old games, even if I have the disc, I still have to go online and find a pirated, cracked version of the game just so I can run it, because the CD key can't be verified or whatever anymore. So, like, what are you supposed to do in those situations? You want to abide by the law, you want to support the developers, but they don't give you the option half the time. So, very frustrating.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of, you know, just strictly looking at it from a business point of view. You know, why wouldn't you want to bring in an available revenue stream that you could potentially make a lot of profit on?
I'm sure there are some aspects of all this that, you know, we as consumers don't see. Like I mentioned with GoldenEye, the licensing thing could be a huge issue. And here's another example. A game called Castlevania Symphony. Years ago, they released an Xbox Live Arcade version of the game, okay? The game was out and it was great, and I was playing it and whatever. And then one day, I can't even remember how long after the release on Xbox Live Arcade it was, but after the release, they released an update for the game. And, you know, you update the game, nothing seemed to be different. But the thing they changed was when you beat the game, the credits roll and a song plays. And that song was called I Am the Wind. And that song, the copyright or the license or whatever that they had to include it in that game when they sold it had expired. And so, you know, they had to retroactively rip that song out of the game because they didn't have... Yeah, they didn't have permission to, you know, make money on it again in a re-release. So in a lot of instances, games aren't re-released, even though it's the exact, even if they just made they released the emulation of the game. Like, it's just the exact same game, a re-release of the exact same game, nothing's been changed. In a lot of instances, their hands are tied because they have to pay a whole bunch of license holders again if they want to re-release the product. And so there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that goes on that some companies just deem it's not worth all the hassle to, because it's not just, you know, the big guy in the office upstairs that says, oh yeah, we own that game, let's just go ahead and re-release it, put 4 guys on it, polish it up, make it nice. Like, I seriously doubt it's quite that simple all the time, you know. If they re-release the game, the community will take over. But the other thing is, if they just looked into the work the community has already done, the mods that they've already made with their assets and all this stuff, they might find that most of the work is already done for them. Like, all they really need to do is reach out to all these community members and say, you know, hey, we really like your work. Like when Tomb Raider... The Tomb Raider games, the original Tomb Raider games, were remastered by, I can't even remember who it was off the top of my head. Don't want to misrepresent, but basically, I think it was Aspyr, maybe. Don't quote me. But they basically hired a bunch of these community modders that had already been working on remastering the original Tomb Raider games. They gave him a job. They, you know, took on all of their work that they had already done. They gave him a team, and they said, you know, just do what you're doing. Like, the community likes what you're doing. You guys seem to know what you're talking about. You've been doing this for 10 years. You know, let's get this project done. Let's get you guys some funds. Like, let's get this going. And it was awesome. Like, those remasters are great, and they run perfectly because they're old systems, they're old gameplay engines and all that stuff running on modern hardware. So, like, as long as the game, like, animations and stuff in the game aren't tied to the frame rate, you can get blistering frame rates, and the game plays so much smoother. The Tomb Raider games are a good example of that, because you can swap back and forth between the original graphics and the new graphics.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like on the fly, you just hit a button and it snaps back and forth. And when you snap to the old graphics, it's like 24 FPS or some crazy low, sluggish, by comparison, frame rate.
Painful.
Yeah.
Painfully slow. Yeah. If you look at most aspects of the entertainment industry, that I mean, let's go back to motion pictures, and you know, they started out with you know, you had pictures with no sound, and then you had sound, then it was black and white, then it was color. How many movies have been redone over the years? The same story, different actors, different times.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been very successful, some of them. So if you apply the same logic to video games, I mean, what's stopping a developer from just saying, hey, we're going to redo our original game and then remarket it, you know?
That's the thing. Like, most of them are doing that, and I think that's, like, I'm thinking that that's really the key. Is it's easier for them to just completely remake a project. Like, instead of doing a remaster, they do a reboot or a remake or whatever. Right. Because if they're making all the assets from scratch, and, you know, they're getting new voice actors to come in or whatever, all of these things consist of new deals, like new established agreements. And so, since they've got to do all those things for the new project anyway, it just kind of makes sense. But if they've got to jump through all of these same hoops that they've already jumped through to release the exact same thing, it just doesn't seem worth it to them, I guess, possibly.
You know, but on the same aspect, how many movies are being released now that have been quote remastered?
Well, see, and that's the thing. I am a sucker for it. Like, I have so many movies that I had on VHS, and then I bought them on DVD just so that I didn't have to rewind them. And then, you know, I bought them on Blu-ray, and then I bought them on 4K UHD. You know what I mean? Like, it is worth it when there is a new, like, facet to the experience, you know? Like, one of the first Blu-rays I saw was Inglourious Bastards, and I remember seeing the particles floating in the air in the beginning, one of the beginning scenes. You know, you've got Christoph Waltz, I think that's his name, and he's like doing like this conversation scene, and they're just sitting in a like a shack kind of thing, and light is beating in through the window, and you just see all the dust particulates floating in the sky, and I was just like, oh my god. I don't know, I guess it kind of just adds a layer of immersion. Like, when you see those extra details, it kind of draws you in a new kind of way. Kind of like watching a movie in monochrome. Like, a movie that has been done frame by frame to be black and white is exceptional. It is exceptionally different, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Watching one of those cuts versus the color cut. And Mad Max Fury Road has a black and white version called Black and Chrome, and it's one of those frame by frame, everything was balanced intentionally. So, like, when you end up watching Black and Chrome as opposed to the original release, certain things really pop out at you. That's pretty cool. I'm getting really sidetracked, but that's okay. Don't really care. I'll be fine.
Getting sidetracked ain't necessarily a bad thing.
That's true.
I mean, and then in retrospect, just looking back at some of the older movies, some of the classics, you really don't want to watch those remastered. I mean, it's just on a strictly a nostalgic viewpoint. When you look at it in the original form, then that has, it brings back the flood of memories that you had back in that time.
Well, I mean, there is the aspect too of rose-tinted glasses. Sometimes we remember things better than they actually were. And so like with video game remasters, with video game remasters, it is important to be able to swap back and forth between, like, for example, new graphics and old graphics, new audio, old audio, whatever. But being able to clean it up and render it in like 4K as opposed to like 270p or whatever, like, it makes a huge difference. And basically, like, I go back and I play games from 20 years ago and they look significantly better the way I play them now than they did back then.
Do you think that is specific to the gaming community, that actually when the graphics are improved, that the rose-colored glasses kick in and you actually enjoy it even more after it's been remastered? And
well, I mean, yeah, I guess you do in a way. Having the availability of the original graphics and all that is important, but like only for like a comparison, like right, like how far we've come. And in movies, I'll watch a re-release in HD of an old ass movie because it gives me some added context. Like, there's more there for me to appreciate, as opposed to when, I was watching Logan's Run on a boob tube, like like a tube TV, and it was all like, there wasn't detail. So like, on one hand, some people would say, oh, extra fidelity ruins the movies because they weren't made with that in mind, that they counted on the cameras to obscure certain details and whatever. So like, they produced this movie and it looked a certain way, but by modern standards, if we increase the fidelity, well, now we can just see how fake that costume looks, or like, that's not wood, that's plastic, or that's not metal, that's wood, like stuff like that. You notice those kinds of things, and you may not have, or you most certainly wouldn't have been able to tell originally when it was on TV or, whatever. It's just something you hold in the back of your mind while you're watching it, you know what I mean? Like, I think they all have their place to exist in the way that they do. Like, I like watching original movies just like I like playing old school games. Like, if I hook up a PlayStation 2 to an old tube TV, I'm gonna have a blast playing it with it looking all crap and whatever. But I've also already done that. I did that 20 some years ago. So now going back, and I didn't have this insane PC back in those days. You know what I mean? Like, the fun in it now is going back and re-experiencing these games. Like, tube TVs and like CRT monitors ran at a really high frame rate. I can't think off the top of my head what it was, but it's very high. It's not the same kind of technology as a LCD or whatever. It's like,
yeah, the cathode ray tube is very, very limited. I mean, what the best one ever made was with the Sony Trinitron TV, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe. Well, my point was, though, that like back in the day we played Quake on like CRT monitors and whatever, and they could get pretty crispy smooth on CRT, but you are still not running like hundreds upon hundreds of frames. Like, today, I can load up Quake, and not only will it be rendered in, 4K with HDR and ray tracing and, whatever other bells and whistles, but, like, it runs at insane frame rates, like, blistering frame rates, like, inject the game into your blood frame rates. Like, it is insane. And there's just something extremely special going back and playing old games, making them look better than they ever looked, and they play better than they ever played. And the gameplay is so strong on these old games that they still hold up. Like, they hold up even better than they did before, because now we have, you know, modern control schemes and mouse aim and, you know, whatever. And all of these things have been refined to a degree that, like, Quake, for example, you can do things in Quake now that you never would have been able to, like, even imagine before with your ball mouse, your CRT TV, and your mechanical keyboard, you know? Tools, peripherals, and tech have come so far. And it is crazy to me that I've been able to be along for the whole ride.
You know, when the games that I originally started playing, like Asteroids, Pong, Space Invaders, you know, basically that's all on CRT and Galaxian, and then there was what was the other one? Computer Space and Tank. You know, that was all CRT back before any graphics or anything. I mean, there's really, you could improve it with all the modern technology we have, but it was so basic. There's really not that much to improve.
Well,
Like
you've got a good
Death
point.
Race.
Yeah, like, you've got a good point. Like, the Vectrix. I can emulate all sorts of old systems, old consoles, old, you know, Atari, and television.
Yeah.
I can emulate basically anything. MAME, like, you name it, I can emulate it.
Seawolf was another good one.
But the things that are the most fun to emulate are the things that scale. So, like, Atari games, they're very 2D, you know, whatever, they don't scale. Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo, those games are great, and they scale in the sense of there's no slowdown when you play them on modern hardware, where they might have slowed down on a Super Nintendo, they're not going to slow down on my PC. So there's that benefit. And with emulation now, like with pixel art games specifically, the issue usually is, oh, well, the pixel art looks bad on HD TVs and stuff. Well, when you emulate it, you can throw any number of CRT filters on there to beautify the pixel art, because pixel art games were designed around CRT TVs. And so the pixels are harsh when there's no scan lines on the image. But you can do all that. You can do all of it with emulation. I can even emulate, like, PlayStation 2 shooters, games that were designed for a controller, and I can control those old PlayStation 2 games with mouse and keyboard if I really want to. It takes a little finagling, it takes a little setting up, but Killzone, for example. If I want to play the original Killzone, as far as I know, like, I've not really looked into it, you're limited to playing it on a console with a controller. But if you emulate it on your PC, you can play that old classic shooter with mouse and keyboard, which has never really been a thing before. You know what I mean? Like, the modding community and the preservation community do this. Like, if you think, oh man, it'd be so cool to do this with this old game, chances are someone's already done it, and you just have to do some work and set it up.
You know, this is a lot of this is like news to me. So there's a whole community of gamers out there that are working to make the games enjoyable again on the modern PC and so forth. Plus, they also have in mind is preservation, much like in the motion picture industry, where they've gone to great lengths to find old films and preserve them.
Exactly like that.
Before they you know, the old film, before it deteriorates so bad that it's no longer be able to play in a projector.
Exactly.
Make copies of it and so on and so forth. So
yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, I know. There is. I wasn't aware that there was the same thing going on with the older games. So maybe that's something to look into, is how those people that have chosen to help save some of the old motion pictures, getting with them on what they've done, and I'm sure they have a backing from the Motion Picture Industry Association. And I'm curious, is there like a lot of industries, is there an association of game developers, or are they all so independent that they've never gotten together because there's just too much animosity and competition between them.
I don't think there's any official like organization, but there's like the Video Game History Foundation, the Video Games History Foundation, SPN, which is Software Preservation Network, the Games Preservation Society. Like, there's all sorts of, like, not, I guess not indie, but like grassroots preservation groups out there, but like none of them have any official capacity, I don't think.
The whole thing, I find it very interesting.
Yeah, if they can figure out a way to do this, to re-release if they can figure out a way to re-release games without having to go through all the recertification or whatever for all the different assets in the game, the songs, the voice acting, you know, whatever. If they're able to do that, every developer would benefit from putting their old games out there. Like, just putting them out there, because even if, you know, I've paid for a game 8 times in my entire life, if it's a game that I want to play right now, I will pay, you know, the $4 or $5 for that old game, for the convenience of just being able to click, 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 and have it install off of Steam. You know, if I have to then later go in and set up mods to perfect the experience or whatever, that's fine. I'll do that. And I don't want to set a precedent where developers just release completely broken, unplayable games just so you have the license. Like, that would be awful. But there are situations where, you know, you just got to be thankful that they even bothered providing the game. Manhunt on PC is a good example of that. It is so broken. It is such a mess. It is a port of a console game, to my knowledge, to the best of my knowledge. It's a port of a console game, and it's old as hell. So it does not have support for like modern systems and shit, but you can download it and you can try to run it, but it'll probably crash. So the workaround is you just go online and get the fan fix. There's a fan fix everything patch. It fixes the audio, it fixes the frame rate, it fixes the controls, you know, whatever. Like, these people just go to play a game, they're like, oh, my game's broken, I can fix it. And then they just start modding it, and they, you know, start on a project, and sometimes, you know, they go down these rabbit holes where they spend 3 or 4 years modding this game for free just because they love the game and they want other people to be able to experience the game. So then they start a GitHub page and they put all their stuff on there and they make it available to everybody else. And they can do this because they're not charging for it. Now, they can still get hit with like a DMCA, like a cease and desist. You will not make this anymore. And that happens sometimes, especially with like Nintendo, famously doing that with AM2R.
Oh, Nintendo just puts the squash right on it, huh?
Yeah, there was a project called AM2R. It's called Another Metroid 2 Remake? AM2R? Yeah, Another Metroid 2 Remake. And essentially, it was just a fan that wanted to remake the second game in like all the glory that is Super Metroid, because Metroid 2 was a Game Boy game. And so they redesigned the game like shot for shot, verbatim. They remade the game but with enhanced assets from like Super Metroid and whatever. And so it was a completely custom build. You know, they didn't charge anything for it or anything, and Nintendo shut them down because it was so good. It was so professional, it was so crisp and so clean, and there were so many improvements that they made to the core of Metroid 2 that Nintendo couldn't handle it, and they slapped them. They slapped them right down. Even though they weren't making money on it, Nintendo didn't want it to exist, because then, by God, somebody might play that instead of, you know, their 25-year-old Game Boy game. Like, it's so stupid. It's stupid. They can simultaneously exist, and it can be fine. But companies like Nintendo, I don't know. And then you have the Nintendo defenders that'll say, oh, well, you know, technically, legally speaking, they are required to protect their copyright or whatever. And, you know, that might be the case, that if they don't protect the copyright, if they don't go after people then it can be argued that they don't care about it or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. All I know is all of it's really stupid. And all they need to do is stop being so greedy and everybody can win. They might not be able to make, profits 343% whatever rate, but like they'll be making profits at a slower rate, but the longevity of that plan is so much better than what they're currently doing.
One would think anyhow, I mean, if they're really not putting any money into it and they license it and they're due a cut, I mean, they're getting money for somebody else's work. They're getting a cut. It's almost like, gasoline taxes. The government does nothing to produce gasoline, but they get a cut. And that's the same thing for the original developer. Instead of saying, no, you can't do anything with this game ever, let them do it. Get a quarter in your pocket's better than zero in your pocket.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's a simple matter of they're not looking at what's best for the corporation, and they're more based on, well, that's ours and we're just going to keep it and we don't care what anybody thinks.
Yeah.
Which, unfortunately, that's not good for the fan base.
We just have to be careful because there are certain people in the industry, specifically Bethesda, who want to charge for community mods. And so the way they do this essentially is they go out and they look for people that are fixing their game or, adding mods to their game for free, that are doing it just because they love the game. And then they approach them and they say, hey, how would you like to start getting paid for all this work you're doing for free? Yeah, does that sound good? That sound good? Okay, yeah. We'll give you 20% of every dollar that is spent on your mods. Doesn't that sound great? Yeah. But they take 40% and whatever platform takes 30%, So like, I don't know. Like, the only one really winning is Bethesda because they're incentivized to release broken pieces of shit now because they know the community will fix them, and then they can double dip. They can take that broken game and the mods for a broken game and charge you $7 for that frame rate fix, or $7 for, a working flashlight, or whatever dumb crap. Like, that's some Nintendo bullshit right there. It's a slippery slope, and we don't want what Bethesda's doing either. We do want developers to take notice of what the community is doing and support the community, but we don't want them to, like, nickel and dime every single little experience,
Unfortunately, I mean, certain companies are going to take that position, and they're losing the opportunity to gain a very loyal customer base when they choose to do that.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say that they're not entitled to make a dollar. They most certainly are. But if they want people in their fold and they want very loyal customers like Bethesda, then they should think twice about nickel and diming people on that type of instance, because it's just going to leave a bad taste in people's mouths, and they're not going to want to spend any money with them.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing that feels quite like when a game gets a re-release or a remaster or a definitive edition or a director's cut, whatever have you, that kind of a thing. And because you bought it, 6 years ago when it first came out, you played it, you liked it, you beat it, you put it away, you moved on with your life. And what do you know? Hey, cool, that game I liked is getting a re-release. Oh, well shit, it just came out today. And so then you go look, and what do you know? That developer just gave you a free copy of the improved version of the game because you supported them 6 years ago when they really needed it. You know what I mean? Like, that feels great. A game right off the top of my head that I can think of was Mark of the Ninja. It was this hand-drawn, side-scrolling, really fun game. And when they released an HD version of it or whatever, some bells and whistle version, they gave it away to everybody who already had it for free. Like, that goes a long way, and it's something that Nintendo sure as shit isn't going to be doing anytime soon.
I think somebody I I know said it well that the people that dislike Nintendo the most are the most loyal Nintendo customers.
Mm-hmm. Nobody hates Nintendo fans like Nintendo. Hey guys, looks like you made it to the end of the video. You must have liked us or something. I don't know why. But do all the YouTube shit or whatever, I don't know. I hate asking for that stuff and I probably never will again. But appreciate you stopping by and listening to us ramble. I hope you have a wonderful day.